the senses are like different telephones. The eyes are calling in to bring in what we're seeing, the ears what we're hearing, the tongue what we should taste, the skin what we are feeling, and sometimes even the red phone call, I call it, the genitals, maybe calling also, requiring attention. So the mind then is dealing with all of those, that knowledge that is coming in, that information.
Talk about the importance of meditation with none other than our guest who's actually in studio. Again, I want to point to the fact that this is the third or the fourth time that I'm having someone in studio since the evils of COVID-19. So lovely to have you in studio, and thank you for joining us. We're speaking to Savya Das, who is a Bhakti Yoga monk. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, Gushwell. I'm happy to be with all your listeners once again.
No, it's only a pleasure, honestly. So I'll be making reference to you as Savya the Monk throughout our conversation. So let's start off by looking at what is meditation actually. And the reason why I'm asking that question is because I'm pretty sure that you're aware that for many people they have very different understandings and meanings to meditation. I mean, it's something that you even say in the office called meditate on that. After maybe a tough discussion. So what is meditation? How do you define it?
We can look at it in the general sense and also in the technical sense. Meditation in general, as you've pointed to, is some deep thought or deep thinking on a subject.
Okay.
And also when meditation is used as a technique for absorbing the mind contemplatively towards a higher understanding. So then it enters into the spiritual dimension. So you'll find different techniques of meditation aimed at relaxation, at focus, at relieving stress, and at bringing out inner peace. So it depends on the practitioner what they are aiming at, and I hope today we'll touch on its material sides and also its deeper spiritual significance.
You'll be my guide today, because I mean and I'll be dead honest, it's not necessarily something I've personally tapped into. It's not the first time that I'm having a conversation about, say, meditation, but it's not something I personally practice. It's not something that I've necessarily tapped into. So I'm really at your disposal this evening in taking us through the process, making us understand of the importance of it. So looking at someone like myself, who just admitted a couple of seconds ago that I don't really meditate, or I don't do it consciously at the very minimum, right? What are some of the benefits of meditation, number one? Number two, what role does it have to play in your life? Because I think also the immediate assumption is that no, it has a religious or spiritual affinity, which may, then for me it's not really the concern, but in some instances people would say no, but that goes against my beliefs, my core beliefs, whether it be religious, whether it be spiritual, whether it be whatever else, and that's why I don't meditate, for example. But what would it help me with, for example? And how does it impact on that spiritual, ethereal side of your life, if at all?
Yes, I would say that you meditate also. You may not particularly note that you do, but to get any task done correctly, your job, you meditate on your family, we meditate on money, on sports. Basically, we contemplate and think of certain subjects, certain things, or certain persons throughout the course of our day. So the focus of meditation generally is via the mind. So the mind is the gateway of consciousness. You could say that consciousness takes the route of the mind into the world. Yet, when one is now been using the mind throughout the day for so many things, there's a lot of wear and tear going on there.
That meeting, that phone call.
Yes. It causes some sort of anxiety, also the mind requires some sort of rest. So different techniques are there. For example, one which is very popular is called mindfulness meditation. And in that type of meditation, one tries to just watch one's thoughts and observe them as they pass by without some judgment on them or engaging with that thought. And in that way, one can pick up certain patterns that are recurring in the mind. That promotes focus and also the ability to not engage with everything that comes into our lives. For example, at work, people may engage negatively towards you. But if you're practiced in mindfulness, then you're able to observe what is going on, see the negative stimulation, but disregard it and not engage with it. In that way, maintain your calm, your peace, and your focus. Another technique that is very popular is what is called body scan meditation. In that way, it's also called progressive meditation.
Okay.
So there, one tries to take their awareness to different parts of the body, specifically looking for areas where there's some tension, maybe some group of muscles that are a bit stiff, and tries to calm themselves. So the goal there mainly is to relax, to de-stress, and to become peaceful. You can try to think of the mind as when people call, what's that? Like almost like a call center. So many phone calls are coming in.
Yeah.
And so the senses are like different telephones. The eyes are calling in to bring in what we're seeing, the ears, what we're hearing, the tongue, what we should taste, the skin, what we are feeling. And sometimes even the red phone call, I call it, the genitals, maybe calling also, requiring attention. So the mind then is dealing with all of those, that knowledge that is coming in, that information. So there is a need for it also to be given some rest. So some of these techniques are for doing that.
I mean, that's actually fascinating, because that's exactly what, I mean, if we didn't have an ability to filter, for lack of a better term, I mean, I can think of today sitting in the office, right? There's different conversations going off at the same time about different subjects. You know, finance is chatting over here, and facilities is chatting over there. I'm engaging my team. Someone else is engaging their team. And, you know, it's this report and that and that. And if I have to take all that stuff in simultaneously, I mean, my brain is literally going to explode.
Yes.
You know, and you do find yourself in that space where you go, geez, but I'm tired. And I haven't done much. It's not like I've been running. It's not like I've been climbing something or doing something physical, but I'm exhausted. And that's because of that perpetual stimulation. And that's why the point that I made earlier on is that I might not be aware that I'm consciously meditating. But I mean, based on what you said there, we're all doing it, albeit unconsciously. So then on that basis then, Monk, Savya, my question then to you is that, does it then matter? Do I have to actively participate in it if my brain is almost naturally going to shut down at some stage and say, you know, I might see it as daydreaming, I might see it as whatever, you know, wandering off in the middle of a meeting, or wandering off in the middle of the report I'm busy typing. But the issue is, you know, I might have that moment where, I don't know, I'm thinking about the kids, and I'm, you know, thinking of the funny thing that my son did 2 weeks ago, and then get back to work. If that is a form of meditation, do I have to actively encourage it and do it? And is there any higher benefit to that than sort of just letting things happen and nature take its course, so to speak?
Yes, there's a need for one to take the time out to consciously meditate. As we mentioned, you know, the mind is also a type of muscle that is being engaged, and you want to give it a chance to rejuvenate. I think one aspect that nature has provided is something like sleep. where we find, though, in today's world with so much passionate engagement in the day, that even when it's time to sleep, the mind sometimes doesn't get rest because it is still engaging with memory. And therefore, there's all sorts of dreams. Some people have insomnia. They can't sleep because there's too much thoughts going on. So to consciously direct the mind towards a peaceful object or thing is important. Like one type of meditation that people do is called focus meditation, where sometimes it's a light of the candle, where they try to just stare at it and focus on it and try not to think of anything else. Or there may be some sound of some beautiful music where they are listening and they're trying to just lower the peaks and the valleys of thought. There are also different types of meditation where people are hitting a gong at some time and you're counting, or you're counting your breaths. So these forms of meditation are just those techniques where we are allowing the mind to relax and to get away from the subject matters which there's uncertainty. You know, we don't know what the future will hold, and sometimes we're trying to calculate that, so it creates this this hankering in us. Or sometimes we're engaged about the past, which is already gone, and we're lamenting about what has happened. So one has to take that time to give the mind some sort of positive stimulation, whether via positive imagery. Sometimes we meditate on persons who have qualities that we'd like to embody. One aspect of meditation is called spiritual meditation, but it may refer in the context of other religious spheres or not. Like in Christianity, for example, contemplative prayer. They say meditate on the word. And in Sufism, which is an aspect of Islam, also that is emphasized that people should meditate on the names of God and also the instructions of God. There it says, if you remember me, I shall remember you. One hadith in Islam says like that. Buddhism is famous for I think they're like poster child for meditation.
They claim all the credit. but maybe, and we'll get into that, because I think that it's also not to differentiate. That's definitely not what I want to do in the conversation, but to discuss what meditation means within different religious persuasions. To some extent, you've opened that up already, right? And I think that's also an important one, because and then again, going back to sort of dispelling a lot of myth, I think, around what meditation is. And where it belongs and who does it, etc., etc. You know, just to go into that, we'll discuss that in just a few. One of the things that stood out for me, and just before we continue our conversation, 011-883-0702. Please do give me a call if you have any questions or any insights into what we are discussing this evening, specifically related to meditation. I know many of you listening to the show right now deeply intrigued and find this fascinating. It's something that you've adopted in your own life for all kinds of reasons, whether it be spiritual, whether it be mental, as you had pointed out there, Monk Savya, you know, that there's that need to almost disconnect a bit, eh? You know, whether you're doing it on that basis or for religious reasons, please do give us a call and let us know what it is that you've gained out of, you know, out of meditation, what your process may be even. I'd really love to hear that from the listeners. But there's a WhatsApp that came through on 072-702-1702. That's also another way that people like getting a hold of us, of course. And the question that came through is, hi there. Can you ask your guest if there is a difference between meditation and fantasizing? This is from Letlogonolo in Manzivo. So is there a difference between, you know, or just daydreaming, you know?
Yes, there is a difference. It's all happening well within the mind. So the mind is, in this sense, embodying thinking, feeling, and willing. And also certain aspects of mind, or the psychology, is also memory. And in daydreaming, or fantasizing, we have many desires, and we have certain scenarios that we would like to see happen in our lives. Sometimes we drift off, just carried by those desires, into some sort of a film of what may happen or what we wish would happen. There is an aspect of certain meditation styles where, like visualization, and it is popular to encourage people to envision a particular type of success, them achieving certain goals, and in that way boost their enthusiasm for that goal and focus on actually what they are working towards. So most of these that I've been discussing so far are on the material platform. I guess to get into this discussion, we also have to understand who is meditating. There is that the consciousness or the I that is seeing the activities of the mind, seeing the activities of the intelligence, feeling the stresses and anxieties within the body, the aches and pains. So that I has to be understood as the conscious spiritual being, you and I. So without really understanding who I am, it doesn't become very fruitful on a higher level to engage with meditation. It becomes fruitful at only a level of just the body. But we want to move in our conversation towards the benefits of the self. So meditation is conscious, and one decidedly sits, or sometimes even there's movement meditation, things like Tai Chi, Qigong, or walking or gardening, where people are who are interested in connecting with the body. And so while they are doing their work, they can contemplate, for example, with gardening, the earth. You know, what is the earth? We call it Mother Earth, or it is the energy of the divine, or it is full of color and flavor and smells. Who put all the colors that we find in the flowers? Who put the tastes that we find in fruit and vegetables? And in that way, it's a meditation on something beyond themselves. So it has to be conscious, and therefore, for meditation to actually take us deeper and become successful, there is a need of a teacher or a guide. Because the goal has to be clear. What are we meditating on? Is it a thing? Is it a person? And in these ways, the forms of meditation are many, but they are not all giving us the same results.
I find that absolutely fascinating. What I like is also almost a sense of honesty. Going back to what you had said sort of at the beginning of this portion of the discussion is, what are you meditating for? You know, and you have to be honest about that. And I guess sometimes, I mean, I know for a fact that if I had to sit down and meditate, it would be much easier for me to meditate on, you know, the corporeal hopes and ambitions that I have, the things that I want to acquire, the achievements I would like to secure for my children, and you know, those corporeal things that I can see, touch feel,
and measure.
And if we have to now start talking about, I don't know, about the person that I am, meditating on the person that I will be one day, it's very difficult to divorce it from that. And then it's easier to sort of grasp onto and I'd love to get into that with you. But I have Ashley on the line from Pretoria. Ashley, good evening. I'm good, thanks.
Almost on a day-to-day basis, that I find myself meditating. Also check to those positives. But my issue really is, whenever I meditate, I also get a lot of negative thoughts and anger from the past that has happened to me, and those type of negative thoughts or the anger tends to sometimes eliminate my meditation or my positive thinking. So, for example, if let's say someone did me wrong in the past, whether it's a partner or something, I still hold on to the thing that somehow in my subconscious mind, and it still plays there, even though I try to be as positive and as peaceful as I want to be, but the negative talk comes where I try to replay a scenario in my mind where I can, out of anger, avenge the past or the hurt that has been caused to me, and those type of anger interfere with my meditation, my positive thinking, going forward. So in fact, I try to hold on to the positive thought, and then I just all of a sudden get this negative thing, and yeah. So my question really tonight is, how do I overcome the anger, the hurt, the negative thoughts, and how do I truly continue keep meditation and keep positive? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question there, Ashley from Pretoria. 011-883-0702 if you want to chime in on the conversation. Monk, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you for that question. It's Ashley.
Yes.
Thank you, Ashley. Your question reveals, and to all of us and who are listening and engaging in this conversation, that within us, it is not all good and positive, because meditation is going within, and so we are finding that inside also there are negative emotions. It is almost like we have a room. It may look somewhat clean, but once we start sweeping it, then we discover just how dirty it is. So generally we are not looking within, and we may not notice all the dust and that has accumulated. You mentioned the dust of previous relationships, for example, some anger, some resentment that is there. So your question is how to overcome. We need something higher, a higher taste to give up a lower taste. So artificially, it is not easy to evoke positivity, but we need sources of positive contemplation. So in one sense, where in the tradition that I follow, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is discussed how this whole material world is providing us with negative contemplation, because it is a transitory place, it is a temporary place. So everything that we seek to hold on to is always slipping away. So we need to raise our contemplation onto the spiritual world, which is a permanent source of positive emotions. For example, if we think of an ideal person who possesses all love, all beauty, all fame, all strength, all humility, and we meditate on them, those qualities, they start to fall onto us. And particularly, we offer a technique called mantra meditation. This is now using sound. Mana means the mind, tra to release. So mantras means sound that release the mind from its absorption in the temporary and the negative. So with sound, we're able to clean out the heart, which is filled with the dust of all the negative experiences of this world. So that mantra meditation is very potent. We'll introduce it now, and you can look out for it. It is called the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If you Google Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and you give yourself 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes every day to chant, recite that mantra and hear it. Hear it from the heart, because that is where we are. You know, when you do your meditation, you remember heartbreak, and you hit the chest, because that's where we are. Actually, the eye is in the area of the heart. So by hearing this sound vibration, it is positive, it is transcendental, it is of the nature of pure goodness, and it rubs away all the residue of our bad experiences.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So it's a matter of jumping into the laboratory and taking up these practices, and then you will see their efficacy. But just trying to think positive has very limited value, as you are discovering, that you will find that what comes up is what has already been hidden there. So now you need a way to wash it away.
That's actually very powerful, because I mean, and I was thinking of what Ashley was saying is, you know, for me, from what I'm understanding from our conversation, meditation is that quiet mental moment, right? And then I think also just going back to that honesty question of what is it that you are meditating on.
Yes.
You may be, you know, it's that age-old experiment, think of nothing. You know, and you can't think of nothing.
Yes, as soon as you think, oh, I'm thinking.
You're thinking of something, right? And so I think the difficulty is that what we tend to do is, like you said, those transient moments of levity. That's what we're trying to replace it with. You know, that holiday that I had, and you know, I was on the beach. It was beautiful. I felt the breeze on my face. I felt the waves at my feet, but I got stung by a bee.
Yeah, and that lingers sometimes much longer.
Yeah, we had an argument in the parking lot before we got out of the car, because it's too windy, it's too sunny, it's too, you know, and then that sort of constantly washes over, so it's those transient moments of levity, but they go away. How then do you find yourself in that space? Let's start with the honesty issue of what it is that you then meditate on.
Yes.
What is it that we strive towards? You've given us an indication, you know, but how do we get there? Because I think it takes a deep sense of honesty and probably digging in areas that we're not all that comfortable with.
Yes, it's a very important question. That is then now why we then go to the root of what are the ancients saying? Where is these techniques of meditation coming from? Because in the age we live in, there's a lot of pseudo meditation processes that are out there. Means it's popular, so a lot of people run into the meditation circles. They invent some sort of technique, and it caters only to the superficial that people are going through. They're stressed, they're tired.
You went there, not me, because that's part of my experience, unfortunately. And a lot of the time, that's why I guess I wouldn't say I'm dismissive of it, but you're like, yeah, well, I haven't found sort of the meaning or the import behind it. There's a lot of sort of quick fix health, popular culture, bubblegum solutions.
Yes.
You know, but no real substance.
Yes. So one has to look for the substance.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens also in the yoga spaces where people want an aspect of a deep culture and science, and they take one aspect of it. For example, even this meditation that we're discussing, it is coming out of the Vedic literature, and it's an 8-level process called Ashtanga Yoga, and it begins with, you know, the do's and then the don'ts, and then it comes to the behavior. Then it has to be sitting postures. From sitting postures, breathing exercises. After breathing, one starts to disengage the mind from the externals, and then now one starts to focus the mind. And what is the mind being focused on? There's an aspect of divinity within us that is the witness, the friend, the guide, you know. And ultimately, when one is able to come to that, then they are meditating on that reservoir of all wonderful, meaningful connections that we are seeking. And ultimately, the result is what is known as samadhi, that one is now engrossed, almost in trance, seeing everything in relation to the source of everything, and seeing the source of everything in all things. So, the honesty question, as you're saying, what are we trying to do? Unfortunately, without education about many things that we do, we will easily grab onto fads and things that won't really do the job. So broadly, we can say there's 3 categories of persons that are meditating, or at least that have an outlook as to what they want. One group is said to be voidists, and there's a whole group of meditation that is linked to that. Voidists are feeling, and one famous group is Buddhism. And not all of it is voidistic, but most of it is that the problem is that we have desires and we have this body, and because we have desires and we have this body, we are suffering. So we want to come to a place which is called nirvana, meaning where we become nothing. Yeah, so this world is nothing, you become nothing, but it's actually something that can be achieved. You are something, and this world, although it's temporary, it is something. And we can't say my eye is giving me a problem, therefore let me destroy the whole body. Try to fix the eye or remove the cataract from it. So that's one voidistic class of meditation. Another one is called the impersonalists. The impersonalists, they say that there's an energy which is governing everything, and it is God. And you are also that energy, and therefore you are God. And so your meditation is that now you have to remove yourself of the ignorance of the fact that you are God. So then one will say, well, if there's everything is God, then how is it that ignorance has come over God? That now we are covered, therefore we have to meditate to come out of ignorance to realize we are God. So they want to merge with the light. You've probably heard that expression. Yeah. It is also another way of running away from the sufferings of this world. Yeah, we want to just then become one with that light and become that. And then next class, the third one is called the personalists. The personalists recognize the individual and eternal position of God, or the Supreme, the Creator, and also the individual and eternal identity of souls. So there's 2. There's us, there's also the Supreme, and therefore there's a relationship between the 2. And therefore their meditation is positive in that there's a personality of Godhead. He is all-pervading his energy. Another level, he is within the heart of every living being as a guide. The ultimate expression, he is an individual person with particular qualities and features. And so then there's a lot of subject matter to meditate on. The energy of that Supreme, his presence in the heart of everyone, his particular activities, his different forms with which he expresses in his entire creation, and also his particular associates. So in the personalistic form of meditation, there's much more shelter for the mind to absorb in positive.
And in a very sort of very simplistic way of understanding, many levels?
Many levels.
Yeah. And I mean, I've absolutely find this fascinating, and thank you for sharing also earlier on that you need a guide, you need a teacher of some sorts. That it's not the type of thing I can't leave the show afterwards and say, you know what, I had a wonderful conversation with Monk Savya, and on that basis I'm going to go sit down and meditate, and I'm sharp, I'm sorted, ready for tomorrow, and the day after. It's a process, and it's also about what you hope to achieve. And so let's take us through that. If I had to come to you, what is and I think many of the listeners are probably thinking that right now, is what is the process for this? Do I WhatsApp you? Do I call you? Do I go onto a website and you have classes on a Saturday? And also within the space that as you had highlighted, a lot of the stuff is commercialized now. Because I was thinking about when you were talking about the various forms of meditation, and what you go through, you start with the do's and then you go to the don'ts. And I think body posture was number 4, right? But let's be honest, a lot of the stuff today is about, we start there.
Yeah.
You start with, this is, I don't know, the crouching dog or the whatever, and this is what it supposedly does. But you're saying that, that's not actually the process. There's building blocks even prior to that.
Yes.
So what I'm getting at is how does one then access what you are accessing, say listeners listening right now and saying, listen, Monk Savya is onto something. I really want to start meditating properly, and I'm really not interested in the commercial bubblegum quick solution stuff.
So first I'll say, find me, reach out to me at Savya the Monk, Savya the Monk, Savya the Monk on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And I can connect you to the programs that we do. We particularly are doing meditation every day at 5 a.m. Via Zoom. You can connect to us. And also every lunchtime here at Wits University in Auckland Park or Braamfontein. And we also have a space in Melville, in Rivonia, in Midrand, in Soweto, in Lenasia, in Pretoria, many spots around Nthateng, where you can, in Hammanskraal, where you can connect with this. But the process is this, is that like any subject matter, there's a teacher, and questions first, inquiry. So there's the syllabus. This meditation processes are given in the Vedic scriptures like Bhagavad Gita. If you find Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, these books are detailing the whole yoga process, which includes meditation. And with that inquiry, you get to see what you are up against or what you need to go through, and you can evaluate yourself if is that what you want. And in that way, then it becomes teacher and student relationship, guru, disciple at some point. And by engaging in that education, then it removes the fear around, could I be doing something which is opening me up for this or that or the other? Because in certain spaces, instead of investigating the processes, they immediately espouse fear in people. If you do that, then they'll be... And it's
I mean, it's true. I know for a fact that, having grown up, engaging different people, I mean, one of the first things that you warn against is that you're opening yourself up to evil spirits, right? Opening yourself up to this, that, and the other thing. And as you said, it makes it difficult then for people to actually do their own inquiry, right? Because I'm too scared to come to you in the first place. Why am I, if that was my persuasion, then obviously we wouldn't even be having this conversation in studio right now, because we don't know what the monk is bringing with him. So there is that type of thinking. So that's why I guess a lot of people then close off, isn't it?
Yes. And we should recognize that our worldview has been, in some sense, programmed in us. We've been raised in a certain ethos, and especially the Abrahamic religions tend to want to be exclusivists. Only, this is the only way, that's the only way. Whereas, broader spirituality says that everyone is realizing the supreme in different degrees. The subject matter should be the absolute truth in between. And then different schools are trying to give us knowledge about the absolute person.
And you've given us sort of an example of how different people are in pursuit of that, or how different persuasions are in pursuit of that, in their work. Oh no, let's talk about that very briefly. And I sort of warned you at the beginning of the show that let's touch on that. You're a Bhakti Yoga monk, And I think both of you and I established for all kinds of reasons that you weren't born into being a Bhakti Yoga monk. So how was your journey? How was your spiritual journey up until this point? And maybe to give a bit of a definition of who a Bhakti Yoga monk actually is, considering that I don't necessarily think that all people would be familiar with the technical terminologies and names, etc., etc.
Yes. I'll start with Bhakti Yoga, the meaning. So the word Bhakti and the word Yoga, these are Sanskrit words. Bhakti means devotion, also it means love. And Yoga comes from the root yuj or yukt, to link or to connect. So we are connecting to the self, the soul, and the soul connecting to the Supreme Soul through love and devotion. So there are different types of yogas that are listed, karma, jnana, and ultimately bhakti, love and devotion is the natural way that relationship flows. My coming into contact was a journey of just, in high school, becoming exposed to a bit of the herb and, slowing down and questioning, why is everyone running? What's the goal of life?
Were you that guy?
Yes, and I was, you could say my guru, my first guru is Robert Nesta Marley, Bob Marley. I'd like to shout him out. I found that he spoke to conscious subjects, whether it was racism, politics, social issues, and also at the bottom was always God consciousness jhana. And fast forward, I'm at university, I see a poster, it says Bhakti Yoga Society. They say that the topic is cure for all diseases. I think these guys are smoking like me, or they're onto something. I go there, I find an Afrikaans man, and he looks so peaceful, and I'm just thinking, Afrikaner is so peaceful, and I'm into black consciousness, how should I hear this man? Then he speaks that we're not this body, we're the soul. Light bulb moment for me. Yes, we're struggling there because we're identifying too much with the body, and we're thinking those with a different skin tone are enemies. But we found out actually the enemy is our own uncontrolled minds. We are unable to control the mind, and the mind can't control the senses. Therefore, we are servants of our senses when we're supposed to be masters of our senses, directing them for higher objectives. So I thought this is worth studying. I was studying IT. I thought, who made all these equations solving for X? Now I want to solve the riddle of who am I? What am I connected to? So I became a monk in Pretoria at the Hare Krishna temple in Hatfield. This was in 2002.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's been a 20-year journey for you.
Yes.
Wow, that is absolutely fascinating. And I take it that now you find yourself being a teacher, whether it be spirituality broadly, but more specifically looking at meditation.
Yes.
As well one aspect.
Yes. I travel around the world, and I speak on topics related to consciousness development in its many aspects.
So on that, discussing your history and how you got involved and how you became a Bhakti Yoga monk, Monk Savya. What then happens to someone who calls in, and I'm going to do it on their behalf because they're not calling in on 011-883-0702. But let's say someone says, but hang on a second, you went through this spiritual journey, and I'm not going to ask you what your religious affiliations were, but I think that there was some type of a inverted commas switch, right? At that point, but I'm a Christian, or I'm Jewish, or I'm a Muslim. And, I have deep religious beliefs and convictions. And hearing what you're saying is, I'm not scared of opening up, other doors to other dimensions that aren't all that great, but do I have to change religion now?
No. We are saying, you come as you are. It's a spiritual technique, mantra meditation. It's almost like it doesn't matter what religious persuasion you are to drink water.
Good point.
If it's good for you. It doesn't matter which religious persuasion you are to buy a BMW. If it's a good car, you don't care it's from Germany. Someone say, well, Hitler did this. No, it's a good vehicle. So we're living in a global environment. We want the best for ourselves and our children. So we should look for processes that work, that are clear, that are practical. So this is a practical spiritual science which is dealing with us at the level of soul. We are all spiritual beings. So don't shy away from feeding your soul. Yeah, take a look at the information. I think if you're an educated person, you can make a proper decision. Yes, we see when there's knowledge, then it gets clearer. In this world, what is happening is that we are only being kept away in areas of spirituality or religion somehow. Like I say, people will read any magazine, any book they want, they'll watch any TV channel they want, they'll travel to any destination. But when it comes to spiritual knowledge, then, now you cannot read anything else, you only have to read this one book. I think that is mental slavery. I think that is when people are being abused.
It's a fascinating, and I mean, and within your group there are people of different religious beliefs, persuasions, etc., and opinions and beliefs, as the Constitution would put it, that are comfortable. They go to church on a Sunday, they go to mosque on a Friday, they do their thing.
Yeah, people come, and then the knowledge will determine what they want to do. Generally, it's generally a progression, primary school, high school, university. So if you find yourself getting a better experience, more clarity, a broader knowledge base, you naturally stick to that. So more than leaving, it's just natural progress. So, but you be the judge, because you have found some encyclopedic knowledge. You will know that what you had is already contained in here, plus more.
But I think going back to a fascinating starting point of our conversation is that, and you'll tell me if my interpretation or my understanding is incorrect, not all of us have to get to the same endpoint, I take it. Going back to, what people are meditating for. I mean, I might want to meditate because I have a stressful life. It's work. Then after work, it's going home to my family and trying to be a good dad and be a good husband, and then come and do a radio show, and then go to bed quite late and have to wake up really early and start the process again. And I might just need that mental break, right?
Yes.
Or on the other hand, Chris may be sitting there and saying that, listen, I'm in pursuit of a higher spiritual understanding.
Yes.
As you said, when gardening, I mean, gardening for me, for example, or doing a chore around the house, something that connects me somehow to nature. I might, I built a pond at home, right?
Yes.
With some fish in it, some water, some plants around it, etc. And that's what I tend to. That's my little corner in the garden. And I won't lie to you, I'm not necessarily standing there and contemplating how everything is connected to the earth, etc., etc. I might just be enjoying the peace and the quiet of the rocks and the water running over it and the fish doing their thing and the beautiful colors of the flowers, but not really a deep thought process. So I can find that as well, I guess. So it depends on what you're looking for in your journey there. That's really the point I'm making.
Yes, it's we are on this journey as souls, and we are at different levels, and therefore we may be attracted and seeking different things. Yes, so it's just that in the education, then we try to show and speak to what is available. And so when someone comes to Savya the Monk, for example, then we will try to let you understand why you are finding peace there, because this peace is not something coming from a material situation. It is connected to something higher. That's why we go out into nature. Whose nature? Why do we find tranquility there? So we try to make everyone expose people to the next step they could take. But at any point, meditation will help one to go more peaceful, more relaxed, more focused.
Very quickly, the one thing I want to touch on, we obviously discussed, spiritual and religious persuasions and how that doesn't necessarily have an impact. You believe what you believe in. You come through in search of the specific knowledge. Lifestyle choices, I mean, some of us, I mean, I heard when you were talking about nutrition earlier on, you were specifically talking about vegetables and fruit. You're a vegetarian, I take it, right?
Yes.
I'm not, for example. Someone might be a drinker or a smoker. All welcome, or listen, we need to just do some adjustments here in terms of your lifestyle.
Yes, you come as you are. And yes, and then knowledge will inform your choices. Then when you understand that this may be better for me in terms of my search for happiness and peace, then you will make the adjustments.
Quick one here. Someone says, hi Gushwell, how do we spell the monk's name? People are clearly looking for you online, and so that,
Yes, it is SavyaTheMonk. Savya the Monk. One word.
Brilliant. Excellent stuff. And I found you on Twitter, by the way.
Okay.
I'm giving you a quick follow there.
I just got on there, some people are,
Yeah, no, I can see. No. And look, the point is that's how, these are generally the best ways of connecting.
Yes.
Even, and I don't even have, you have Instagram. I don't have Instagram.
I'm mainly on YouTube. That's what I feel.
Oh, is it YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'll definitely. I prefer YouTube, ironically enough. I don't know if I'm old school or whatever. But
Yeah,
I'm sitting and say working. Yeah, but I'm sitting and working. Put on the headphones, switch screens, and I listen to a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll definitely give you a listen tomorrow. Listen, Savya the Monk, I really appreciated your time this evening. Thank you for coming through, having this conversation with us, and of course, Savya the Monk. That's what people look for. But if people Google it, they'll find you, right?
Yes.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much. Looking up at the time, it's 2 minutes ago before we get to 10. Thanks for coming through. I found it very interesting.
I
Keep a
figured.
steady hand and it will work out.
Come closer.
I'm being taught by a monk how to take pictures.
You know what I mean.
That's how bad I am.
Where actor
Wait.
Johnny Depp has won his defamation case against his ex-wife actress Amber Heard. Depp filed a lawsuit against Heard.
He still needs to check them because
Okay, you've been taking them.
I take a whole lot of them because I know I am dead.
But
People
Gina's
go like,
celebrating
"You are
wherever she is."
terrible."